morning, everybody, and welcome to Undisputed Live from Los Angeles. I'm Jen Hale, here with Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharpe joining
Hi,
us
Jen. How are
live
you?
from Atlanta. I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
Oh, look who's still hiding from me. He's hiding from me in Atlanta in his little box.
Hey, Skip, how I look at the monitor? Am I looking good today?
You got that big inflated ego head that's a little larger than usual, but that's okay. But I believe you're still in Atlanta because you feared the worst in Game 5 in Toronto, and you feared the worst in Game 6 back at Oracle. So you're in hiding, and it's okay with me. Just stay there. You can stay there next week.
Because I already know what's going to happen when Kawhi do what he does tomorrow night. I don't want to see you. I don't want to be around you on Friday because it's not going to be a pretty sight.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what he did to me a year ago. That's what I want to talk about.
You're not bitter at all.
Not at all.
Shannon will be back next week, and we can settle up the due situation. So let's start this morning with Kevin Durant. He suffered that devastating Achilles injury Monday night. ESPN reports KD flew to New York to undergo an MRI instead of heading back to the Bay with the team. Now, Kawhi Leonard dealt with his own injury, of course, a quad last season with the Spurs. The Claw played just 9 games with San Antonio because of that injury before getting traded to Toronto. After Game 5, Kawhi gave his thoughts on what KD is going through. Let's take a listen.
It's devastating, you know. Like you say, you work so hard to get to this point. You know, these are the last games. You see he tried to come out and, you know, push himself. But, you know, obviously, you know, he tried to do a move. And, you know, I feel bad for him, you know. I've been in that situation before. I hope he, you know, has a speedy recovery and, you know, just gets healthy and hope that he's going to be okay mentally just throughout the whole rehab process.
Kawhi's injury somewhat controversial, but Shannon, how similar do you think these two situations are?
I think they're very similar. I think the thing is that what Kawhi did is that Kevin Durant didn't do is that he got a reprieve because even though the doctor cleared him, he didn't feel comfortable, Skip. He did come back. He played because he's missed the start of the season. He came back, played 8 games. He didn't feel quite right. He sat out a couple of games, played one more game, went and got a second opinion, and then shut it down for the rest of the year. The thing that happened with Kevin Durant is I don't know for certain, and like I said, I don't have any inside information, Skip, whether or not Kevin Durant got a second opinion. But he did not get the reprieve that Kawhi Leonard got because even though Kawhi played those 8 games, he didn't do any more damage. He didn't completely rupture the quad. Kevin Durant didn't get that reprieve. Kevin Durant went out there when he wasn't 100% after getting clearances from the doctors, and we all believe that he ruptured an Achilles that was already probably partially torn. And so these situations are very, very similar. And Kawhi saying, I understand what he's going through. See, Skip, for me, it comes down to as simple as this. If the Warriors were up 3-1, would they have put Kevin Durant on the court? If they can answer that no, then he shouldn't have been out there to begin with. Because what you have to realize is that the Golden State Warriors are still a business. This is about a transaction. And so they monetize or they prioritize their number one goal, their number one priority, which is to win the championship over Kevin Durant's health. And see, a team will never tell a player, you will play tomorrow, you will do this. But they know once you get to that level, be it professional baseball, basketball, or football, they appeal to the competitive side. They'll appeal to the brotherhood, Skip. Skip, you know why they got on that plane to come see you, KD. You understand that you're the best player on this team. You understand, they understand that they can't win without you. That appeals to Kevin Durant. Because, Skip, remember, he gets into it a lot of times when guys question him. Also, it was reported that some of the executives in that organization, some of the players in that organization, had questioned Kevin Durant. Skip, what causes Kevin Durant to snap back on social media? Was some kid from Iowa or Minnesota says, Kevin, you a sucker. You supposed to be the best player, and you jump on board with the Golden State Warriors after they won 73 and went 73-9. So now you appealing to the man's competitive side. You're like, I ain't no sucker. I'm tough. Because all the time, Skip, this is a machismo. Basketball, football, it's about bravado. I'm better than you. So you appeal to that side to get them to go. Skip, that man was not even close. It was reported that his workout session went terrible. Before I turn over to you, Skip, I dislocated my arm my first year back in Denver. I think it was 2002. I missed about 4.5 weeks. And so they said, okay, I got cleared. The arm felt good. Skip, what I did is that they had a guy on the practice squad, a linebacker. We padded it up, and we went out there on Tuesday, which is normally the guy's day off, before I even practiced on Wednesday in order for me to play on Sunday. Now, I don't know the protocol in basketball, but normally, did they do Boogie Cousins like that? Did they say, Boogie, you're going to practice tomorrow and you're going to play the next day? Or did they give Boogie an opportunity? Did Boogie practice what? 5, 10, 15, 20 practices before they ultimately put him out there. You see where I'm going with this, Skip? But in actuality, when you look at Kawhi, when you look at KD, the only difference is that Kawhi got really, really smart. He got a second opinion, and that doctor told him to shut it down, and that's what he did.
You finished?
I'm done.
Good. Jen, is the show over yet? I don't know. I haven't
You got a
spoken
few-
yet.
Yeah, you know what?
Oh, okay. Now it's my turn. Oh, okay. Thank you.
You always do. You always do that.
This topic angers me more by the day. And what that man, that guy number 2 who used to play for my San Antonio Spurs, had the audacity to say about what he did in San Antonio compared to what happened to Kevin Durant is completely out of bounds and completely over my edge, because it's sending me over the edge. So I got 2 big points here, and the second one I'm going to throw right back in your face. But first of all, just to reiterate, what this man did a year ago to my Spurs was, it started out as a thigh bruise, and it lingered to the point that the most conservative and patient medical staff in all of sports, San Antonio's, finally gave in just to appease number 2 and his outside opinion doctor and his outside opinion physical therapist that had nothing to do with the Spurs. They appeased him by tagging it tendinosis, or what is that? I don't even know what it was.
Tendinosis.
Some weird term that I hadn't heard of to that point. And it indicated there was some inflammation of the quadriceps tendon, that it wasn't just musculature, that it went into the tendon, which I never believed, because no San Antonio doctor ever believed that. And I'm going to say this one more time just because he brought it up, comparing his situation to Kevin Durant's. I spoke to a doctor who told me he had examined that guy, number 2, back in San Antonio, and he said, I could find nothing wrong, that it was all in his head. But this tendinosis, or whatever it was, lingered into January to the point that it forced the San Antonio Spurs, the most player-friendly organization in all of sports, to finally call out this guy publicly by saying, hey, we have completely cleared him for all basketball activities. And what did he do? He shut it down. He threw it right back in their faces by saying, I'm still hurt, I can't play. And then it became clear that his uncle Dennis had taken over all of his basketball affairs, all of his business affairs, and it became very clear through lots of reports from lots of national reporters that Uncle Dennis wanted him out of San Antonio, either in New York or New Jersey or Brooklyn or in LA. And because of that, he shut it down for 73 games, which finally forced the hand of 2 potential future they're cinch Hall of Famers, Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, to call a team meeting and put him on the hot seat and say, are you with us or not? This was in late March, just as the playoffs were looming, and they thought they had a chance to make a deep run, maybe even get to the finals. And I'm sure in the meeting he probably said nothing, because he rarely says anything, and they interpreted that as a no. And Tony Parker, God bless him, he's now retired. He just recently retired, as you know. Tony Parker, who has 4 rings.
Years ago.
What's that? Oh, he retired a couple of years ago?
He retired a couple of years ago.
He was a finals MVP, and he's got 4 rings, and he made way more fourth-quarter clutch shots than this guy will ever dream of making. Yes, he did. You have no idea. You never watch my Spurs because you dismiss them as broccoli, and you don't eat broccoli. I eat broccoli every day. Chicken and broccoli every day, twice a day. That's what I subsist on. That's what you should do. The point is that Tony Parker had ruptured his quadriceps tendon the year before that in the playoffs against Memphis. And he called out this guy by saying, and I quote, "My injury is 100 times worse than his." 100 times. And that's exactly right. That frames it. The Hall of Famer Tony Parker said, "My injury is 100 times worse than his," and that's all you needed to know. And obviously, that was the final nail in the coffin for that. Toronto, go ahead.
If you don't mind me asking, the San Antonio Spurs doctors cleared Kawhi. The Golden State Warriors doctors cleared Kevin Durant. And what happened?
Okay, but they're...
Now, both of them cleared. The doctor said everything was okay.
Okay, here's the big difference, and we went through this yesterday. Not to get too medically technical here, but Kevin Durant was said to have had, according to Golden State's press releases, a calf strain, right? So I'm going to have to accept that he had a calf strain. That's what they believed, and that's what they told the public.
Hold on, Skip. Skip, since when do you start accepting what teams say? That's not the Skip Bayless I know.
That's my premise to start with. And again, for those who don't know, the calf has two muscles in it. The gastrocs, the big one, the soleus is the little one, right? And they meld into the Achilles tendon at the body. They kind of narrow and meld into the Achilles. And occasionally, any strain of the calf can signal that you have some He looked sensational. Yes. He was explosive. Yes. He was firing into his jumper. He was pushing off and dunking. And we saw him in the game. Didn't he look 100% healthy as far as a calf strain would go? Okay, but the Achilles was hanging to me by a thread. It was on the thinnest of ice. And one move, one crossover step, and it went. Okay, well, number two in San Antonio wasn't hanging by a thread. He had a thigh bruise. There was no risk of rupturing. It's Milwaukee. Why did he not shut it down then? Because he's risking next year's free agency. Just shut it down. If you think, and finally, I thought it was his quad, it was his knee. So if you're in danger of rupturing your ACL, let's say, why don't you just say I can't go? Because he said he can't go in San Antonio, right?
Skip, no, you and I both know there's a difference between tendonitis and the potential to having an ACL tear. And what had happened is that because he had overcompensated for his right quad, he had put so much stress and strain on the left knee, now he had tendonitis in the left knee. Skip, see what bothers me is that Steve Kerr said the doctors told him, or it was relayed to him, that he couldn't hurt the whatever the injury was, he couldn't make it worse. Isn't that what the Boston Celtics doctors told Isaiah Thomas with his hip? That he couldn't hurt it any worse? After he went out there, dropped 53 on the night that his sister died tragically because he was playing for his brothers. You see what got Kevin Durant is the very thing that you say about Kawhi Leonard. He quit on his team. The one thing, Skip Bayless, you covered sports for 40 plus years. You know the one thing that you can never say to an athlete is what? He quit. You can never say that.
Number two, quit on my San Antonio Spurs. I'm going to say it again. He just flat out quit.
And Skip, you're making my point. And because Kevin Durant did not want to be labeled as the guy that quit on his team, that quit on his brothers, after they flew to the Hamptons, interrupted his vacation, they appealed to that side of you, Skip. Man, this is how they do it, Skip. A 70% of Kevin Durant is better than 98% of the NBA players. Yeah, that might be the case, but a 70% healed Achilles tendon has a greater propensity to rupture than 100% healed Achilles.
Again.
So, Skip Bayless, you know this.
I am with you on Kevin Durant, but you cannot bring the other guy into this equation because he does not qualify for this equation.
Yes, he does.
He does not. Okay, then you're not answering my question. You keep changing the subject.
What's the question?
Why doesn't number two shut it down right now? Why didn't he just say, I can't play game 6 because my knee hurts? Every time he has any kind of ache or pain, he shuts it down. That's what he did. Listen, I watched him carefully for 7 years in San Antonio. He was constantly hurt. He constantly had a calf or a quad or a shoulder or an elbow or a hand or an ankle. He was constantly hurt. The most minor ache or pain, he shut it down. Why doesn't he shut it down right now? Because he's exaggerating his injury to plant excuses in the minds of the media and especially Shannon Sharpe. That's what's happening.
I do not.
Excuses
I
are
do
being
not-
planted.
Let me answer your question. You and I both know, Skip, tendonitis is different than a partial tear of the Achilles. You and I both know that tendonitis is something that if you get it warm and you keep it warm, you can be okay. It's when you sit down or you get into a position that it starts to ache. You know that overcompensation on one body part will lead to a strain on another body part. You understand that,
Okay,
Skip.
so you're admitting.
That's not.
No, you're admitting to me that tendonitis or tendinosis, not that big a deal. You warm it up, you play through it. Obviously, that's the case.
Yeah.
So why did he shut it
Yeah,
down
but
for 73 games in San Antonio with tendonitis, basically? And I'm not even going to give him that.
Because, Skip, he felt that it was far more than he could push through. He's pushing through this. And all you had to do was take the guy at his word. And first of all, take the guy at his word and give him a max contract. If you don't think he's a max player, why are you even concerned whether or not he shuts it down or not? You should be wanting to rid yourself of him. He's not a max player. He's not tough. He quit on your team. So why all of a sudden was Greg Popovich wanting to fly to San Diego? Why was all this hullabaloo
Obviously, he's a
about
really good
Kawhi?
player. And he'd been a good player for them.
No,
He'd been a finals MVP. But he became more trouble than he's worth. I'm
But you
good
didn't want to
riddance.
max him
I'm
out.
happy he's gone. I don't need him anymore because you can't count on him.
And the yes, you can. Oh, you can count on him. You can depend on him like the first and the 15th.
Those last 3 minutes and 28 seconds of Game 5 the other night in his new house in Toronto, could you count on him? Nope, he disappeared right on schedule. Can't count on him.
I bet you 5Ks will do. He will hold the Bill Russell Finals MVP trophy when it's all said and done.
Well, he's going to be the first one to get it for a losing team?
No. First of all, he wasn't the first one. Jerry West did that the first year it was established in 1969.
Like Chuck
but
Howley
that's not going to happen.
My Cowboys once upon a time for the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Akeem Olajuwon was most outstanding player in a losing effort also.
That's true.
But that's
right.
neither here nor there. We're not talking
Jerry
about that,
West
Skip
and
Bayless.
Akeem, I guess, right?
No, he's not. No, he's not.
You're going to have to
You know what's going to happen,
where your
Skip.
mouth is tomorrow.
Skip, this is your worst nightmare.
It is not my worst nightmare. He was my worst nightmare in San Antonio, and he's gone. Thank God he's gone.
Skip, you believe that the man quit on your roster and forced his way out of San Antonio. You mean to tell me you're going to sit back and take this? A guy wins goals. You said crime pays. So he sat down on your team, forced his way out, goes to another team. They sent him as far away from where he wanted to go as you could possibly get. Toronto is so far away from L.A., the Lakers, or the Clippers, you can barely find it on the map.
True.
He goes to Toronto, and he wins a title. He's Finals MVP. And you mean to tell me the Skip Bayless that I've known very, very well for the last 3 years is going to sit down and take this? Okay.
Okay.
No, you're going to be very upset.
I'm not going to be very upset. I've told you all along, you can root for him all you want to. You can leap on his bandwagon and drive it after you picked the Golden State Warriors to win this in 6 games, and you're already defunct in your first pick. Now you're picking Toronto, I guess in 6, though we're going to have to bet like 4 cases of Diet Mountain Dew just on Game 6, but you wouldn't take that bet yesterday. It still sits right in the middle of the table if you want to claim it right here, right now.
Yeah, we're gonna make the pick tomorrow.
Okay, we're going to do it tomorrow, but I'm going to sum up Kevin Durant. All I know is I'm on your side with this. Did he know he had an Achilles pre-existing issue? Did he know something was going on with his Achilles? Because if he did, then he accepted the risk and he took one for the team. He said, they need me, we're down 3-1. Obviously, the situation in San Antonio was nothing like this right now with the desperation that they were in Game 5. And I admire Kevin for saying, I'm going to try to do this for my team. Again, he paid the ultimate price for it, not with his life, but with his basketball life, obviously. But now it's intriguing to me that he has just dismissed the Golden State doctors and he went back to Marty O'Malley, doctor in New York who's very well known, and he's done a lot of surgeries on he did Joel Embiid, and he did Ben Simmons, a lot of the big, Marty O'Malley, who, by the way, happens to be the Nets team doctor, but that probably doesn't play in this. You never know. But the point is, he's not using the Golden State doctors anymore. So he's gone outside, and I think that's a bad sign for Golden State.
Gentlemen, we got to leave this one here. Let me point out, KD does turn 31 in September. So we may know more out of New York about the injury and the timetable to return later today. Certainly this injury has a lot of ripple effects, including on free agency and perhaps on that trade situation out of the Anthony Davis sweepstakes. We're going to be discussing that up next. And don't forget to check us out every day on the Fox Sports Channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.